Fubar here, and today we are recording a video on officer tiering based on unit. This was a suggestion in my officer tier video, so that way people can find the data more cohesive towards the units they wanted. So today we're covering the medium, the heavy, and the MBT. I'm going to talk a little bit briefly on each camp before we go. So right now, the two most popular choices in the Warpath community that are AKA the MBT meta would be the Liberty MBT and the Vanguard MBT. Reason being is they have a really fast retrain time, and each one has different abilities. For example, the Liberty MBT will go faster and has a higher siege bonus, whereas the Vanguard MBT has more armor and has higher firepower, which is very much more of a frontline fighting unit, and where the Liberty MBT is more of a hit and run unit. And the Martyr MBT, for those who are wondering, has a self repair skill, which it only takes effect when it's out of combat, and it does not recover lost troops, but it will repair the troops that are damaged in that unit. So on to the officer pairings right now. We're going to start with legacy officers, and the reason why we're starting with legacy officers, because before day 182, you are in the legacy. You're going through level 1 city, level 2 city, level 3 city. So while you're going through those cities, there is officers that you start off with right out the gate that are very valuable. And these I'm going to rate these from S, A, B, and C. Okay. So we're going to start off with Tip of Spear. He is going to be an A rank because there's more valuable officers, in my opinion, that you should be ranking up. But his skills are very valuable, and they will carry over to the 182 and the 300-day marks of the server. And the reason why he's valuable is because of his leading skill and his awakened skill. And his lead skill allows him to reduce the prep time of his officer's skill, which means you can be firing your tactical skill more often. But on that other note, like I said, he also increases the firepower of the unit that within a certain map grid range, but he does no damage, so he's going to be an A tier. Percy can be used on a tank, and she's very good for a defensive officer. You get her for free. You can awaken her for free. It's very quick. All you got to do is get an officer to level 60. I would give her a B tier all the way through because her skills are useful for the skill tab system, but overall down the road she quickly falls off. So that's why. We're gonna go to Sergeant Spanner. Sergeant Spanner is one of the goats of Warpath. Everyone loves Sergeant Spanner. He's one of the only officers in the game that provides a healing ability next to uh, Angel of Light. Angel of Light can be used in conjunction with him, but we're not going to talk about her in this video because I do not recommend awakening her. There's more officers available to be awakened unless you want to go the infantry route, which will be in a totally different video. So Sergeant Spanner does a very amazing job at keeping your troops alive in the field, and he is very, very effective. In the early game, he is an S tier. Late game, he will drop down to an A tier, and his healing ability, along with the tick heal he gets when he's awakened, is very valuable. Insanely valuable. As you can see right here, he will heal your troop for 1500 healing coefficient. It gains a damage resist by 10%, and it deals a additional healing coefficient of 125 per second for the next 4 seconds. So that's a very big jump right there. So you're getting an extra 500 healing coefficient for 4 seconds. So you could pretty much recover all your troops all the way back up. And he's very effective as a tanking officer. So I would recommend him on a heavy tank with Percy in the beginning game just to tank bases. So like on the Liberty heavy or the Vanguard heavy or even the Martyr heavy or the super heavy. Okay. Next is War Machine. War Machine is an S tier officer that holds his value all the way through the game. He is very worth awakening early game because you can get all his statues for free in the Alliance store. So he does amazing damage. He's mostly offensive set. He goes good on almost any unit in the game. But when he hits 182 days, his valuability of an S tier officer drops down to an A tier. But his skills are still very valuable, and that's why he's an A tier. Huntsman, you unlock him from the Moscow event, and when you hit your first L4, and he's an A tier. He has good skills. He's one of the few officers in the game with a balanced skill. And funny thing is, this balanced skill correlates with Death Adder. So one of them, I believe it's him. Yeah, yeah, it is Death Adder. He has a higher firepower buff and a lower HP buff. But if you flip it when you go to Death Adder, he'll have a higher HP buff and a lower firepower buff. He also provides a passive heal for his fourth skill, and he also provides damage resist. Damage resist and troop damage increase are two rare skills in the game, which what makes him so valuable. So not only do you unlock him late before the 182 days, that's why he's an A tier, and then there's quickly officers who replace him down the road. So, but his awakened skill is very good, and I recommend him for other troops because of his awakened skill. So that's why he's an A tier. The newest addition to Warpath is Tiger Marauder, and he is available right at the start of the game. Now, the funny thing is he is one of the highest damage coefficient officers for a tactical skill once awakened. Anytime between then, it's a gamble. But he does have valuable skills. He increases firepower with his second skill. He does a damage resist, as we said. That's a rare skill, and he also does field recovery, which is like Spanner, but only outside of combat does he heal his troops. I recommend him with Guardian of Truth personally. If you want to go for a full offensive setup, very worth. Okay, um, but Guardian of Truth is a pay-to-win officer, and therefore you may not want to invest in him. He will cost roughly $250 to $300 USD, and with that in mind, when we get to Guardian of Truth, that would be on you to whether or not you make the investment. I think he's worth it, but you may not. So I recommend Tiger Marauder as an S class officer in the beginning of the game, but in the later parts of the game, he falls down to an A tier officer. Guardian of Truth, one of the few officers I actually invested money into unlock. Um, Actually, he is the only officer I invested really. He is worth every penny from the day awakened him all the way to current, from 182 to 300 days past. He is an S class officer. He does great. He is a great officer. He gives so much damage resist, so much damage, and he's one of the two officers in the game that give a pen damage bonus, which is really good on any tank unit in the game. So he is S class. Death Adder, he is easily a class all the way through. His abilities are very highly misunderstood, and they are very good, but he needs to be in conjunction with another officer in order to make it very effective. So, like in other troops in a rally. So, what he does is he has a Sundered Armored ability, and his Sundered Armor ability reduces the amount of damage resistance your opponent has. So, that means you could do more damage to him and in a faster interval. So, he would be best comboed with like Guardian of Truth, who does a ton of damage. Now you can reduce that damage, and now you also have a higher pen depth damage because he's the other officer with penetration damage increase. He also offers troop damage, and which is very valuable for a skill later on. So that's why he's in an A tier. He also has one of the few officers with a balanced skill. His awakened skill increases your troop speed by 10%, but it also increases your troops' damage resist by 20% while reducing your target's damage resist by 10%. Very valuable. However, his damage coefficient is very poor. So you need to use him as like a support officer that will be doing that to increase the amount of damage done. So you want to use him with like Tiger Marauder or Guardian of Truth that will do a ton of burst damage right off the bat, or even War Machine. Okay. Last officer for Legacy will be Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is an A officer. You can awaken her for free by just doing officer missions, but you can invest universal statues. She increases the speed of your troops. She has a passive heal. She does troop damage. And she has a blinding effect that stuns the opponent, making them unable to hit their targets. But also, when she's awakened, it also pauses their prep time skill. Well, no. Before awakening, she pauses the prep time skill. After she's awakened, she disorients the enemy so that way they can't attack you for 1 second. Again, she's another support officer that would need to be paired with another officer that will do high damage to be truly effective. Now, on to 182 days. 182 days, you're going to have two officers that are easily S class, and that would be Valkyrie. She does a passive ability of Sunder Armor, just like Death Adder. She does troop increase. She does troop damage, not troop firepower damage increase, and a speed increase. She does also a very significant amount of damage. She does 1500 plus a 15% damage buff for 4 seconds. Then she also increases the damage of this officer's troop if just straight off, just like 50% of the damage of the officer's troop by 15%. That's what makes her valuable for for the MBT as well, and also the medium and heavy. But if she's on a tank hunter, she'll gain additional benefit of her decreasing the load time by 5%. Her awakened skill is an absolute beast. She does so much damage. She increases the chance of the Sunder Armor taking effect from 20% to 40%, and it lasts for 4 seconds, which reduces the target's damage resist by 20%. And also, if the target's already affected by Sundered Armor, it deals a damage to the target of 200 additional damage coefficient. So that is a very big, big deal. Now, to the next S-Class officer that I am currently on awakening right now. I'm still working on it, getting close. I'm like 280 statues away. Is going to be Golden Eagle. Golden Eagle is an absolute monster. The reason why he's an absolute monster is his tactical skill. Not only does he do 15%, 1500 damage coefficient, he does an additional 80 damage coefficient per 100 millimeters of armor thickness the enemy has. So if you're going squaring up against another MBT, heli, or even a light tank, which I believe light tank has a max of 100 millimeter armor, you're going to get that extra damage. And even you can go up against SH units, which in the later game they have 4 to 5, almost 4 to 500 damage. Of armor on their unit, like armor thickness. So that means you're going to be doing a max of like almost 300 additional damage, bringing his damage coefficient up to 1800. On top of that, he gains a damage buff towards tanks and helicopters up to of 20%. He gains a critical chance rating. He gives you damage resist of 15%, but he also provides a unique skill that can be shared to other officers that provides a base damage resist buff of 20% if you share his skill with another officer. And this is where this gets kind of crazy. 20% of base damage resist is like equal to having all four walls almost like level 150. That is crazy. So the 2 months it takes to awaken him Well worth. His his passive awakened skill, Firestorm, your troop does 20% extra damage with normal attacks, and the normal attacks ignore 10% of enemy damage resist up to 15%. So that means that is a crazy amount of damage, and that means you kind of can work with that with Valkyrie, and that was going to do a significant amount of damage. All right, 182 days for these troops. I think Thorn Countess is 180. Nope, she's 300. We're going to start from the top because I believe that is the last for the 182 days. All right. Lady Justice, she's an A class after she opens up at 300 days, and she was easily dwarfed by other officers. She's still a very good, credible officer. She does a firepower buff while of 30% up to 35% if you're fighting within your alliance territory. She does an amazing damage coefficient that reduces your target speed so that way you can catch your target. She does a critical strike as well, so that's an additional damage increase. And she's one of only two officers in the game that provides a damage resist buff of 20%. Only her and Argent Flame will provide a 20% damage resist buff of 20%. Now, her awakening ability is very potent because it increases your troops' damage and speed by 15%, while reducing your target speed by 50% for 6 seconds, and you already are dealing a 1500 damage coefficient. So she is definitely very credible to be in an A tier, almost S tier, towards tanks at this point. It's a shame that you have to wait 300 days to get her, but she is totally worth it, and she is on my list to be done. Whip Cracker. This to me is the female equivalent to Guardian of Truth that is free. And the reason being, Guardian of Truth's passive skill is that he gains 10% damage resist to helicopter or tank troop while he's in combat. But when he's out of combat, he does not have that 10%. But once he starts combat or enters combat, he gains that 10%, giving him a 25% damage resist. So that is huge. She also gives a 10% damage resist buff while gaining a damage resist of 15% on her awakened skill, but also on top of that, she gains a 500 damage coefficient shield. Very awesome. She also increases the training time and the true speed of your officers by 10%. That is huge. So that means now your tanks can crank out and recover much faster when you mess up, make a mistake, and that makes it very much more forgiving. Her second special skill is that when this officer's tank or helicopter troop is attacked by a skill, they have a 75% chance to reduce the damage taken by 40%. That's skill damage. Skill damage is what easily kills MBTs from helicopters. I'm telling you, one of the most potent setups for a helicopter right now is Valkyrie with Golden Eagle. So with that in mind, now you can negate 40% of that skill damage on that troop. Plus you already have 50%, and when you hit 300 days, you already have now two skill tabs. If you stack damage resist on each officer, that means now you have say if you went with Argent Flame and also Lady J, now you have friggin' almost, yeah, you have 100, almost 100 damage resist. And if you count your camp buff, you'll be over 100 damage resist. And if you count in techs, you're going to be well over 100 damage resist. Her skill damage is very potent as well, and she negates normal attack damage with her main skill, with her tactical skill of up to 20%. So that means you get 1500 damage coefficient, you're gaining 20% damage reduce, you're gaining skill damage reduce, you're gaining a 500 point shield, every time you enter combat. So if you're using this unit with hit and run tactics, so say with Guardian of Truth, you're gonna have so much damage resist, and you're gonna be doing so much damage. It's kind of retarded. Excuse my French, but it is, and it's very, very good, very potent. I did forget an officer that was 182 days, which is S tier, and that would be Steel Fighter. I am so sorry. She is a perfect combo to go with Spanner, and I would stack additional damage resist on her, and I would stack also troop damage. She is such a good officer, and it's mostly because of her Awakened skill. Her Awakened skill, right, brings her shield to 2,000 coefficient, and she also, when she is garrisoned, reduces the damage received by the base from officer skills by 30%. That is huge. So keep that in mind. And also, she has one of the very rare skills of increasing troop damage and increasing the troop damage by 15%. So her and Spanner, great. She's an S tier officer all the way through. Now, the last 300-day officer, other than Professor Payne, which I will cover, is Thorn Countess. She is another officer very similar to um, Steel Fighter. However, her shield only goes up to 1500. She gives a firepower buff to troops within one map grid, so very good in rallies, where especially with other MBTs because she's going to be buffing up their firepower. She increases again the troop damage of that unit by 20%. She also reduces skill damage like Whipcracker by 30%. She gives a HP buff to officer tanks and helicopters by 40%. But here's the kicker. When this officer is garrisoned in a base, any shield the troop has increased by 15% and can be used by the base. The base also receives 10% less damage from normal attacks. So if you have this officer awakened and you pair her with say Steel Fighter and you're on base defense and you are getting attacked, her shield will go up, but now she'll have approximately 6,500 shield plus Steel Fighter's 2,000. So now you have a 3,600 damage shield, and she's reducing the normal damage of attacks by 10%, and while Steel Fighter is reducing the damage by 30%. Very valuable, very good. And again, I recommend her with Spanner. I would consider this officer a tank officer. Her name is Vox, but she can go anywhere. She's more so meant for defense. And the reason why I'm talking about her is because she has a very unique balance skill, and she's an A tier. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Thorn Countess, when you get her, she is an S tier officer. She's very good and valuable. Definitely worth investing. Now, Vox, she increases troop damage resist with her active tactical skill, but she also increases damage resist, um, the base damage resist. So she's very valuable, and she also increases the damage of troops garrisoned by 32%. And when she's out in the field and she's attacking another enemy ground force troop, she can cause fatigue on the target, which will reduce the target's firepower by 30%. She easily has the most balance skill in the game, where she both firepower and HP are equal together, which is incredibly unique. And her awakened skill is that all officers garrisoned will have their prep time for their skills reduced by 0.5%, which is huge. So I would recommend her with actually Tip of the Spear. And when you put her on a MBT at this point, when you get her, you're going to want to use her as a buffing unit because Tip of Spear will be increasing the firepower on the troops there, and she'll be increasing the damage resist, which is incredibly useful because now you're giving a permanent buff to your allies. Now, I don't like talking about exclusive officers because of how long it take to awaken, and I'm mostly a free-to-play player. Like I spend at most right now at my current state in the game $25 a month. So, but we're gonna cover Professor Payne. A lot of people love Professor Payne, and he is very well paired with other officers. He does a ton of damage with his tactical skill. It's one of the highest in the game, um, for especially tank troops. So he's easily an S tier officer. His damage coefficient goes up to 1800, and as long as his tank's HP is over 70%, and if it is, it does an additional damage coefficient of 4500 every time it fires. So that's 2250 every time now. You have a chance whenever the troop is attacked by 20% to receive a healing coefficient. And like I said, he is the most powerful balanced skill in the game next to Vox, where both of his give 20% and hers gives 15. He gives both firepower and HP. Now this is the real unique skill right here that it makes him very powerful and potent. Increases skill damage of all officers in this troop by 30%. So putting him in an offensive pairing with, say, someone like maybe Whipcracker, or who is very strictly defensive, where he's very offensive, will be very potent because she does a lot of skill damage. She has 1500, so it's pretty damn good. Or you can even put him with Golden Eagle or Valkyrie, and those two would be a very good pairing as well with him. But his Awakens skill, Forlorn Hope, is what makes it kind of a very, you gotta be very micromanaging him on a unit to make him very effective, because while in combat, increases the damage of the officer's troop and helicopters by 25%, but reduces their damage resist by 10%. Has no effect outside of combat. So what that means is now you're losing 10%. So you need to find the most ways to build up your damage resist with this officer. Now with the skill tap system, that becomes very easily. You put Argent Flames damage resist skill on one officer, and you put it Lady J's damage resist skill on a different officer, and then you want to use probably Whipcracker, like I suggested before, because you gain that. Now you negated out that 10% damage resist, and now you have a shield plus an additional 15. So now you're at 55% damage resist. And if you're using a camp buff of, say, 5, that's now an additional 15 that brings you up to 70% damage resist. And if you got your tank tech tree of advanced done, and you've already well into modern warfare, that's easily 80% damage resist right there alone, and that's not counting alliance tech. So just keep that in mind. So so he is easily S class, well worth the investment if you're a spender. But for me, I'm gonna take my time awakening him. Like right now, I'm finishing up Saber of the Nation. So once he's done, I'm actually gonna go over to Lady J or Rictus Reaper because I'm trying to work on my bomber. So that would be very effective. So if you guys found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any questions, please join my Discord. I'm more than happy to assist you. And if you have any other questions but you don't want to join the Discord, just leave a comment. I'm more than happy to help. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I appreciate who made that suggestion before. I will definitely be continuing doing this with each unit group. So thank you for your time, and I hope you're having a great day. This is Fubar. I got your 6. Peace.